Okay.
All right.
Ready?
Clap that clapper.
And action.
Today, this video started out in an entirely different direction. We knew we were going to use these metallic paints, but we suddenly had the revelation of, wow, these are pretty awesome. These deserve a video of their own. So you'll see them again at some point, but certainly, this is Deco Art Extreme Sheen paint. This happens to be the 24 karat gold color, and it's amazing when you use this one. And I'll admit, I'm not a gold person, but it's beautiful. So there are 28 colors in this line. These paints are a little different than most of the paint that you and I work with on a regular basis, whether it's the golden fluid acrylics, or it's the Amsterdam acrylics, or it's the Dilutions, or Tim. You'll notice it when you see us roll it out on the plate. It looks a little funky. It looks a little different than what you normally see, but ultimately it works really, really well, and you can do anything with this paint that you do with any other. The caveat, and Elizabeth will show you this in the beginning when she does her bit, is that if you want to show that?
Look at the 24 karat gold.
I know, right? If you want real depth and you want good coverage, you need to print it twice. That's the biggest thing that we can say about this, is if you want that look and you want that opacity, we're talking gel printing now, you definitely want to layer that on 2 times.
Just as a base layer. I mean, I hit this twice to create the base layer, but in subsequent layer printing, I didn't have to hit them twice, just to make sure that the bottom layer was definitely that intense and that 24 karat gold.
Which is pretty darn good.
Which is pretty darn good,
yeah. So with those 28 colors in the line, I've worked with some, Elizabeth worked with some. I mean, there's just not enough time to use all 28. But the other thing that we did was we brought out, technically, I didn't even unpack the last time I went home. So we brought out her Patterns for Layering 2 stencils, which you will see before this video goes live. And we worked with, well, let me think about this. We worked with the one named Honeycomb, which is that one. I didn't bring the stencils.
We should have called it Giraffe.
Yeah, because that's kind of what it looks like. And we worked with the one called C-Shapes.
C-Shapes.
That's
a good one.
And this is going to be my caution about what not to do. And then we worked with the one named Daisies and Stars. So when I was printing, Elizabeth is going to show you a layered gel print. And let me shut up for a second and let you talk about that.
Oh, well, I made a lot of layered gel prints, but ironically, when we talk about the color, and I think you're going to be able to relate to this, I made all my prints in the same color palette. And I wasn't even really thinking about it, but every single print that I'm showing you is in like the pink, blue, and gold color palette. Every one that I made, it's one version or another of that. And I think that's true of all of us. Like you went right for the teal and green, which is what appeals to you, and I went to the color palette that appeals to me. And sometimes you got to make yourself try a new color. Because like I said, I didn't even realize that every print that I made was basically in the same 3 colors.
They call it a comfort zone for a reason.
Yes, it's a comfort zone.
So this is our black, smooth, and sturdy stock. It's pretty thick. I want to say it's 18 points, somewhere in that neighborhood. So probably a little bit heavier than 140-pound watercolor paper, like what you're accustomed to.
Hence the sturdy.
Hence the sturdy. Aren't you smart?
Yeah.
So if you look at this, you can see that this is not the best print ever. What I did was, first of all, I put too much paint on the plate, and when I printed this, so I put the stencil next, and when I put this on top to print it,
it's squished
a little bit,
slid,
which is why there is this kind of less than definite print on here. So word to the wise, don't do it.
Unless, not everything. Here's the thing. I always tell my students this. You get the very solid graphic version, and then you get the softer, more painterly version. And when you're making collage paper, sometimes that soft edge version is better for making it look a little less graphic and more painterly. So I think there's nothing wrong with that, except for that you're making a card, which you're probably going to send me, and then I'm going to get this in the mail, and I'm going to go, oh, if it couldn't have been better. But, we all know the reality is that she's never going to send me a card in the mail.
That would presuppose I'd actually get a stamp out and put it on there, but
right.
That's not going to happen.
No. But in terms of collage paper, I love the soft edge, when it's an imperfect print and it looks a little more painterly. So.
And quite honestly, there's nothing wrong with this if you want some pattern and texture on a background that you're going to then layer over it. That doesn't make a hill of beans worth of difference. So it really is just a question. And you know what? One of the things that happens in my brain as I'm working, and typically I'm working alone. I'm not always with Elizabeth. I have this
Most of the time.
Yes.
A lot of the time.
You and I are together.
Every month.
Lately, every other month, going a little further in the year, but more often than not, she and I are working alone. And what happens is, I'm rolling along and I'm doing whatever I'm doing, and I don't get exactly what I want. But then I thought, all right, well, I'll just slap some stuff on top of it. And 9 times out of 10, it works out fine. The one thing that I'm always cautious of is this this perception that everything we make is fabulous. It doesn't work that way.
No.
There's a lot of punting. There's a lot of, ooh, can we make this better? And then sometimes stuff lands in recycling because it never really gets to where I want it to be. So when you create something that isn't exactly what you had in mind and you can't find any redeeming value in it, feel free to toss it.
Really? You know what I say about that?
What?
Put another layer on it.
I know you do. Pretty soon the paper doesn't flex.
If
There's
you
so
don't
much
like it, put another layer on it. You'd be amazed. I mean, we made some beautiful prints with the base layer as a roll-off sheet,
We did,
which is something that most people would throw out. I love putting a couple stencil layers over the roll-off sheet. It makes a beautiful print. So
And what happens is it makes a print that you will never create again.
you can never recreate
You can get
it.
something close. You can use the same patterns, the same combination of stencils in the same order, and it's not going to be the same. But that's okay. That's why they call them monoprints.
Monoprint.
Yeah.
Only one.
Yes.
Let's go make one.
Let's go.
So these paints are so sparkly metallic that they're really wonderful to work with just as a flat color. I'm really excited about the potential of tearing this up and applying it the same way that I would apply gold leaf or deco foil, but I can tear it into small pieces for collage and I can apply it in areas as a solid gold that is really nice and shiny. And it's not just gold. So we have, this one it's not the pure gold. It's a version of, and then this is like a rose gold. You can see how shiny and sparkly that is. And then if you wanted to add a little texture to your metallic leaf, this is just a print of the copper over the gold with one of my patterns for layering stencils. And then I've just got a little bit of texture in my gold leaf or my gold metallic application. So the best way to get the really sparkly, shiny, solid gold, like we said in the introduction, is to hit it twice with 2 passes. So here's this one is the 24 karat gold. So I'm going to brayer that out in a nice even thin layer. It's easy to put too much paint out and then the paper slides around. So the best way to do it is to just make 2 passes, I have found through practice. Okay, that clearly wasn't enough paint. So I might have to go a little heavier. The solid metallic, like this, the gold, it makes a beautiful base layer for layered print. And for that reason, too, as well as just saving it as gold, plain gold, it makes a beautiful base layer to build a print on. So you want to get a really good solid gold layer and then build your subsequent layers on that. So here's technically our second print, because the first time I didn't use enough paint. So we're just going to print this over the first print, and then you get that really solid, shiny gold. I mean, that is really rather amazing for paint. It just gives you a real good solid base, like I said, to build on or to use as it is. So I also want to show you a layered print with some other of the metallic colors. So this is basically a roll-off sheet that Barb left behind yesterday, which I thought would be a great base. And that is a combination of roll-off of the coral, the pink tourmaline, and the garnet. So you can see that there's all 3 of these colors are sort of rolled off and on this base sheet. And I'm going to use that to layer and create something cool. So I'm going to roll my brayer out so I can get the gold out of it. And then the next layer that I'm going to do is a ghost print of my Klimt Cubes mask. And I'm using the deep sapphire color. So I really want to, I'm going to flip this over. I don't want to get gold in my deep sapphire color because it will be green because the gold is the yellow. So I'm going to grab another brayer.
There, but
Well, it's dry. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because gold is pretty much a yellow. And if that contaminates this beautiful blue, we're going to end up with green, which is not what I'm going for. So I flipped the plate over. That's probably too much paint. And what I want to work with from this is the ghost print. So I'm going to start by taking a roll-off sheet and removing the paint from the negative spaces. Okay, so let's take a peek. We want to make sure for a good ghost print, we want to get the paint out of the negative space openings, but we can't spend too much time or too much pressure because then the paint underneath the mask will stick to the back of the mask and not leave us much to work with in the ghost print. So it's kind of a delicate balance here. All right, that's pretty good, I think. There's still a little in here and in there. Okay. And we'll definitely be able to use this for something. Look at that beautiful blue. Lovely. So here's our ghost print. And going a little heavy on the paint application worked in my favor here because, like I said, sometimes it sticks to the back of the mask. So now we're going to transfer that ghost print onto here. And that blue is such a pretty color. There we go.
That's pretty.
Yeah, that is nice. And then I'm going to use my patterns for layering. Do we remember what this one is called?
We do not. This is actually from Patterns for Layering 2.
Patterns for Layering 2. I like this. It kind of looks like sparkly stars. And I kind of like the way that lent itself to gold. So again, I've got blue. So rather than deal with that, I'm just going to go back to my gold side. And I'm going to go back to my gold brayer. So I'm going to put that 24 karat gold on top again. And I'll put a little bit of a generous application because I got to get it through the holes in here. But you'll notice it's a little bit more slippery than some paints. So it's easy to put out too much. It just takes a few practice runs to get the hand of how much paint to put out. And quick reminder, we are using the Yasutomo 9x12 sketch rice paper pad. That is my favorite paper for gel printing, and we're using the smooth side down on the plate. So we're going to now layer Patterns for Layering 2 over the Gustav Klimt Cubes mask. So we'll get a large pattern with the Cubes mask and a small pattern with the Patterns for Layering. So we'll have a contrast of size of pattern and shapes. And I do like the Baron for getting pressure out to all edges and the corners. It helps to eliminate the buildup of paint around the edges that you get when you gel print for any length of time, because when we press with our hands, we tend to not go all the way out to the edges. Okay, so we need more pressure. Got to get through those tiny holes. Okay, so now we have that beautiful star sparkly pattern on top of the blue, on top of the pink roll-off sheet that Barb gave me. So look at how all those beautiful super shiny metallics work together really nicely. So now I just want to show you some of the prints that I made while we were preparing. So this one is a couple of Patterns for Layering 2. Several of them actually, and all layers of metallic paint. Look at how sparkly and shiny that is. This one I did on wet strength tissue paper, and it is a nice example of sort of silvery gray blue. And that's that same stencil that I just used with the sparkly stars. I was really into that one. Here's another one. Nice combination of blue and the pinkish purple and the gold. This one, same palette. Look at that.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a nice layering. I tended to stay in that same palette, obviously. Here's another one with another Patterns for Layering, this shape that someone told me looks like a giraffe. And then the sparkly stars on top of it. And this one is simple. I didn't go with any more layers on this because I really liked the tone on tone. And that is this, the garnet with, when I brayered the gold, I still had garnet in my brayer and on the plate. So it became a very similar but slightly different. I really like the way that looks. And that's all of them. So now we've got a ghost print of that, and I don't know if it'll show up on this, but we could add it to one of these. Maybe this one, just to get a little texture in your paper metal leaf. There, it's a little bit. It's a little dry because I let it sit there for a long time, but I was just thinking that would make it a little bit different than metal leaf. You know, the metal leaf that you get is just flat and solid gold, and this would make it a little bit different because it would add just a little bit of texture.
There's just enough pattern in there to make your eye catch the movement.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, I think that's nice, and it's a little more subtle than this one where I went with copper over the gold, but it just gives that gold a little bit of texture when you want to use it for straight up gold collage paper.
Elizabeth did not work with either, where are we here? The color's on here someplace. Oh, come on, it has to be here. Oh, either Peridot or Aquamarine, and since those are pretty close to being my all-time favorites, that's what I'm gonna work with. Before I show you what I wanna show you, I'm gonna show you some of what I did. So let's start with, these are the swatches that I made when we filmed the patterns for layering 2 stencils. So the ones that we've worked with, this is daisies, this is C-shapes, we have honeycomb, and then we have stars. And so I've used all of these, I think, in one way, shape, or form. So this is C-shapes. I'm working on black because you get drama with black, and you also get nice reflectivity. Although it's a little bit different because the black does mute this just a tiny bit, so your effect will be a little bit different, but certainly there's glimmer to be had. So C-shapes, we said then this one was stars. This is some more stars. This is the daisies. And this one I like, it's got a couple of different colors on it, but what happened is that there was some debris left on the plate that got picked up when I printed this. This is one of the blues, I don't remember which one. So I'm gonna play with 2 colors, and I'm just gonna do an ombre because it's something that I enjoy. And I'm going to work with, with the stencil from Patterns for Layering 2 that I've already forgotten the name of, that is Daisies. So give these a little bit of a shake. I'm gonna put a little bit out on the plate of both colors. Now, the thing that I realized when I was working with this yesterday was that if you put too much color down and you press too hard, well, this still isn't the example I'm looking for. Nevertheless, if you press too hard and you've got too much paint on there, you don't get a clean definition of your shape. You can see that it's gotten really close here. So I'm gonna try to keep that in mind, and hopefully I have not added too much paint. So when I do this, I just want to brayer to the point where I get kind of a nice mixing in the center. So there's a reasonable blend there. Just get rid of that. So there's 2 ways to do this. The first one is, now these are pretty small openings, but the first one is to go ahead and put your surface down, and this plate is 8 by 10, and these are 4 1/4, these panel cards. So I will not get the whole piece on there, but I don't really mind. It's important to press really hard, and the Baron is right here. When you have too much paint and you push really hard, there's a tendency to get this slip movement that happens, and I think that's how I end up with less crisp edges. So as you play, and depending on the thickness of the surface you're printing on, you'll find that line between too much paint and too little paint and how much pressure you need to really get through the openings on the stencil. Now, obviously, the larger the openings, the easier it is to get the print through there. So if I flip these over, oh, okay, so that worked. I've got the daisies on there. This one happens to be mostly the, what did I say this color was? The aquamarine side, and this one has a little bit of a blend on it. So this is what happens when you press your surface through the openings of the stencil. And when you pick this up and you come back for, let's find an index card, you come back for the ghost print, obviously you're gonna get a completely different look. I thought there were 2 there, I guess not. So what I'm gonna do is put that down, And then I'll just print on part of, you know what, that one actually works. Come back and do this. These paints are pretty unique in terms of how shiny they are. As we mentioned in the introduction, the consistency is a little different from a lot of other paints, but even though you might have to print twice, as Elizabeth showed you, to get that really covered, that significant coverage to get that real shimmery effect, it's worth it, and it doesn't take that much time. So here I've got both colors on there. I've got some nice reflectivity. And of course I have the drama that, oh, I like that one, that goes along with using metallics on black.
So that's what we have to say about fabulous, amazing, sparkly metallic paint.
Deco Art, geez Louise. Deco Art Extreme Sheen paint. 28 colors. The 24 karat gold is the one that you'll see Elizabeth, or you will have seen her use the most, because it produces the most amazing, almost metallic leaf-like effect.
Yeah, I think that's the one that gets that is the most what you think of as gold. The lightest, brightest metallic, give you the feeling of gold. So if you're going for that gold leaf effect, that's the one you want. 24 karat gold. Don't accept anything less, Barb.
Shall we say goodbye?
Goodbye. See you next week.